Hi there, it's Sam from Leeds Rocks, and today I'm going to be talking to James Rowling from Stitch Theatre, a performance art company. So James, can you talk a bit about your relationship to Leeds? Is this the place you come to work or collaborate, or do you live here as well?
So I don't live here. I was actually born and raised in West Yorkshire anyway, so I'm from a place called Silsden near Skipton, about half an hour away on the train. So This is kind of the city that we'd always come to, you know, when I was kind of growing up, either to shop or to see the big shows. And this is where I came to study. I came to formerly Leeds Met University, so I came to Leeds Beckett to study performance. But yeah, this is kind of the nearest kind of big city. I'd always tell people I was from Leeds if they were from further afield, just because they always knew where Leeds was.
Well, yeah, the thing is as well, if you say you're from like Bradford or something, which you are closer to, people instantly go, oh, you're from Bradford.
No, it's got a strange kind of stigma attached. But I think if you say Leeds or Bradford, they kind of just assume it's like, oh, it's from Yorkshire.
The Bradford really just came out in you then when you said Bradford.
D's become T's. So, yeah.
That's a tip from Leeds.
Yeah.
Right. So James, like, how would you describe your practice then? Are you a part of a certain scene or like artistic community?
When I went to university, it really broadened my perspective on what performance can actually be. So I started working on experimental theatre. I became involved in live art, and so performance became something much bigger. So I'd say that the work I make is experimental theatre, but we also make live art and performance. And we play with a lot of traditional forms of theatre to make something which I feel is more interesting and a bit more challenging than a kind of lights down, lights up, going to watch some theatre. Yeah. But yeah, it's so that's kind of my practice and something I got more involved with during my time here in Leeds.
Okay. So would you say that Leeds performance scene is growing, and where do you think it's headed in the future?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think because while I was studying, I came here to study at a time when the arena was being built, and so big things were we always kind of knew big things were coming for Leeds, and with Live Art Bistro opening up from students birthed from Leeds Beckett University as well, so to know that they were the ones going into the industry, setting up a performance space for the lesser known companies, for the experimental work as well. It was really kind of nice to know that was there. Yeah. And from that, things branch out as well. Before Live Art Bistro, there was kind of East Street Arts and Slung Low's The Hub, which is a secret theatre near to the train station as well, that not that many people know about.
Oh no,
it's quite notoriously hard to find.
Very notoriously hard to find, as a few of my friends have told me. Like, I've heard some good and interesting things about Slung Low.
It's a great place to go and see, to challenge yourself, to be somewhere that isn't. We know that these spaces aren't as well funded as, the Grand or, the West Yorkshire Playhouse, but we know that these interesting places exist. So if you want to go and be maybe a little bit cold, but watch some amazing work and support the smaller scene, like you say, the alternative scenes that are popping up around Leeds, it's a great thing to do and to be involved with.
Well, you were saying about it being cold. I said a little blanket thing, which is like the best little thing I've heard about that theatre. It's just they give you a little warm blanket to snuggle up and everything.
They fold them up and put them on the backs of the seats, so it's like if you're cold, you can kind of cocoon yourself and watch these poor performers that are
possibly stripped down naked.
No, I've seen work like that there, and you do feel a bit sorry for them.
Definitely.
It's a gorgeous place, so it's really interesting as well that it's kind of underneath. It's kind of like near to underneath the train tracks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of on an estate.
It's very unassuming. Like you'd look at it and you'd think it was just a company's headquarters, like a small company's headquarters, but it's actually this like amazing theatre that's almost like one of a kind in the country, so very unique.
It's also like a hub for performers and artists as well, and it's got an amazingly warm reputation.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know that that exists, and it's in Leeds as well, so it's local.
Oh, that's cool, man. So moving on from that, do you actually have like a particular space or venue that you're really, really happy to work in when you're working in Leeds? Like,
the place that sticks out to us is, as we previously mentioned, Live Art Bistro, which is kind of on Regent Street at kind of the other end of Leeds to kind of the university. So it's near to West Yorkshire Playhouse, but it's a very informal space. It's warm, they sell cheap beer, so it's nice to go and it's nice to just go and relax there. And if we know that if we're making something new, or if we feel like it hasn't reached its full potential, we can go and show it to people there. They'll talk us through maybe a different way to take our process and kind of build upon the work. It's kind of a nice place to go and scaffold the work.
Yeah.
If we're unsure about anything, and we know, like, again, that's another hub for performance that's kind of up and coming. It's gaining a really positive reputation and some momentum as well. Like,
well, it's just been part of Transform, hasn't it? Which is a large scale festival across the city. I mean, you've got performances in like West Yorkshire Playhouse, haven't you? And
absolutely,
then
you
performed in Live Art Bistro as well.
Yeah, we opened up for that festival, and we were the first company to open up in their new space. They used to be in a space a bit further down the road, but due to the uncertainty of making space for artists and keeping that space, someone bought the building, they had to move, but the kind of support was overwhelming. Yeah. Everyone wanted to get stuck in and help them move it to another location, which is kind of in the same complex, just a bit further down the road. So it's good to see it survive. Yeah.
I really like that idea of it's like very DIY. It gives it does give it that underground alternative sort of feel to it, that everyone's pitching in and helping. It's not just the people who own it, it's the artists as well who are getting involved. And
I suppose it's that idea of being part of something, and people walk past all the time and kind of point at it, or people just walk in sometimes and just kind of go, what is this, like, what's happening?
I remember, Taylor, you were telling me about when you were performing and you had a load of like Japanese like tourists just walking in with cameras in the middle of a performance.
I don't know how they got past the front of house, but they just started taking pictures of everything, and it was really quite amusing, really, because maybe it's too accessible. Maybe it needs like
bouncers,
people on the doors. Yeah. No, it was, but it's nice to know that it's an informal, welcoming atmosphere. Yeah. And I don't think there's a place I'd rather be to see some good work, and the sense of community that you get while you're there is kind of quite overwhelming, and it adds to the experience of going into the kind of alternative scene and experiencing something there in the moment.
That's sweet, man. So on to the next question. Do you think performance caters to a wide variety of tastes here in Leeds, from the mainstream to being, quite a diverse and alternative experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, now that you've mentioned Transform, one of the most controversial companies in Germany, Campo, came over to perform their show Schönheitsabend. Which
I'm amazed that you pronounced that right.
Schönheitsabend. I got corrected so far too many times. But to know that they were coming over to Leeds, there was a big buzz about it. Everybody was talking about it. We knew it was going to be controversial and mind-altering, and it was happening in like no less than Northern Ballet, which is one of the most prestigious performance venues that I've been to in Leeds. And to know that was happening, this big scale production, then there was us at the other side of the spectrum bringing something which was rough around the edges and a bit new and a bit light-hearted and fun, but to know that suddenly you can be impacted so forcefully by Campo and their work, it was quite astonishing. And we know that Chris Gooding Company was bringing a show to West Yorkshire Playhouse called Wanted, which was where people, just everyday people, they went out into the community of Leeds, asked people what they most wanted to see on stage and made it happen, whether it was like a fluffy bunny in a pen surrounded by soft music, or if it was a load of kids dressed up like superheroes telling them that war is pointless. And it was just so many emotions, and they really challenged the idea of what theatre can be and the experiences. that it can hold. That whole experience of transformed my kind of perception. It was so impactful.
Yeah.
And so that being a good example of how Leeds can suddenly just kind of sweep you off your feet with all these different, a cluster bomb of experiences.
Yeah. It's so like niche as well. Like it attracts. I feel like the mainstream haven't like gotten to it yet. I mean, like there is like mainstream influences of like performance and like art and stuff, like Lady Gaga, and you know you've got Beyonce and Lemonade. Well, notoriously, like you were saying to me, she'd plagiarise work and stuff like that. And
it's kind of like an in joke in the performance world that Beyonce plagiarises work from famous people in the art world, from Teresa de Chiasmica, who was a really famous choreographer, and how the images it creates trace really strongly back to kind of seminal work.
So it is seeping into sort of mainstream, but not in the right way.
I think when you get people like Jay-Z, Lady Gaga collaborating with people like Marina Abramovic, you're kind of wondering, is live art trying to breach, the walls of like the mainstream, and is that a good thing if it is happening? And I know it spurs a lot of interesting debates. Some people would rather it remained kind of a secret, or these events happening, but you've got to know about it, and I think that adds to the kind of the fun of being in a group.
It is a nice feeling. It's like a sense of community almost. That you're a part of this. You're being invited to this. It's inclusive almost. Like I've been to performances and stuff, and when I try and explain everything to my friends, they're just like, "What? What's happening?" Like none of them know about it. None of them have even heard of like this sort of performance work going on and stuff. And it always makes me feel like a bit of a hipster, like a bit more like oh yes, I've been invited to this, not you. Like
I suppose so, and it depends on like who you know. Are you really ready to challenge yourself by seeing something like that? I suppose, and I've
seen some things.
That's just talking about the kind of body-based practices where you will maybe watch someone penetrate the flesh or experiment with bodily fluids or spit or and you see stuff like this, but you also see some things that are really quite different. It's vast and it's wide, and you could see something that involves a lot of talking and clowning and kind of like that, or you can go and see something a bit more risky, which is it all depends. And the fact that that's around and it's coming to Leeds and now it has a home, I mean that's a really big thing for Leeds as well, as somewhere that hopefully will take over from Hull City of culture.
Well, it is the growing city in the UK right now. That's why I love it so much. It's like being here. Every aspect of Leeds is constantly getting better and better.
I always think of Leeds as the modern capital of Yorkshire. I don't think about York and its kind of medieval ramparts.
Well, I remember going there recently to visit a friend, and it was just literally there was walls everywhere. It was like a scene out of Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, and the rampart, the hills and the walls and the kind of.
It's almost very backwards, but it's like it should really be a sort of a classical city that people remember, go to, and it keeps its heritage. But I feel like the capital should always be the city that is
where the people are as well, where the people really are.
Yeah, exactly.
And
so I think Leeds is definitely the place to be right now. In England.
I'd agree.
Yeah. So just a final question, James. If you were talking to an emerging creative who was moving into the city, what advice would you give to them?
I'd say straight away get involved with these communities that exist, and reach out to people that are making the great work that inspires you. I remember being so inspired and just eager to get involved, make something for myself, talk about who's influenced me. And it's like the gift, isn't it? Just passing on the gift of, there's a great space there and this is happening on Saturday and you have to be there. And there's going to be post-show discussions and And, you know, we could, you know, there's so much going on in Leeds. You know, you can go to a gig, you can go eat some strange food, and
there's plenty of that, right?
Yeah, and just meet the weird people.
That's the fun of it, isn't it? That's what being alternative's all about, is meeting everyone who's unique, a bit weird, you know, they like different things. It's so eclectic. I think it really makes for like a really nice boiling pot of like ideas and everything.
I think the preconception is that, you know, you've got to meet someone who's, you know, you do have to meet people that are already doing it, but next to them that you're not important. But the fact is that everyone's important, everyone's got something to bring to the great big culture table. Do you know what I mean? And without you there, it kind of seems almost incomplete.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got a story to tell and a thing that they've done that makes someone else think, and, you know, everyone's connected, aren't they, I suppose.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like, everyone's got to start somewhere as well. Like, even if you are just beginning, you know, you've got to find your feet and everything. And I think people are willing to support you, probably, aren't they? Like,
Absolutely.
a lot of artists are willing to help you out, give you advice.
The support is huge, but if you don't want to seek it out and you're not willing to put in the time and the effort and the hours, you know, it's kind of fruitless, really. You've got to reach for the fruit.
Yeah.
You know, but it's
do it yourself, but also with help of others.
Yeah, do it yourself, but do something as well.
Yeah.
Don't sit back and think that you could do it tomorrow when you could be doing it today, and making that difference for yourself and going out into this amazing city and just making some memories. I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's great advice, you know. Like, honestly, this is all true. Like, Leeds is a wonderful city with wonderful people, and if you are really wanting to get involved in this, then go to these events, go to gigs, go to the bars, go everywhere. There's so much culture in Leeds. There's so much going on all the time, and I feel if you want to get involved in something, you've got to go out there and do it. You can't just sit behind your keyboard, write a few messages. You've got to be in there and in the thick of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking this time to talk to me today, James, and talk to the viewers. I'm sure they'll take your advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been good. Thank you.